Hello. Today we're going to be looking at a piece of classical music. It's part of the classical guitar repertoire, and it's one of the tunes that lots of people learn when they begin to play classical guitar. It uses a technique that we refer to as free stroke. It can translate really easily onto steel string guitars. If you've got a nylon string guitar, it will work on that really well. And it requires a kind of finger picking pattern and fairly standard chord shapes. So it translates really well to people who are learning to play steel string guitar, who have learned chords and can sort of appreciate that. So you should have a copy of the tab. If you haven't, you need to get a hold of that from me. This it relies on some notation to tell you which fingers on the right hand to use to play the strings. So just to go through those, we use the letter P for thumb. That's because it's the Latin polus. I for the index finger, fairly straightforward. M for the middle finger, and then A for your ring finger. Now, some American texts sometimes use a T for the thumb and an R for the ring finger. Makes a lot of sense. However, the classical notation still stays with P and A for the ring finger. We don't use the pinky at all in classical playing, and it's best if you're not resting any fingers like your pinky or anything like that on the guitar. So if you allow your hand to float, it will work quite nicely. So getting used to that takes a little bit of practice. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the pattern that it uses, and then I'm going to zoom in so you can see how my fingers are working. But the pattern that it uses is thumb, then index, then middle, then index again, then your A finger, your ring finger, then index, then middle, then index. Now that sounds really complicated, but if you think about it as your thumb on the first note and then your index finger in between every other note. So you've got, okay, I'll do that slowly again. Throughout the piece, your index finger stays on the G string, on the third string, your middle finger on the B string, the second string, and your ring finger, your A finger on the first string, on the E string. So what we're going to do, I'm going to zoom in and let you see that again, and I'm going to put on an A minor chord when I do it, because that's the key of the piece. So index finger goes on the first fret of the second string, then we'll have the third finger or your ring finger going on the G string, and your second finger going on the second fret of the D string. So the other two are both at the second fret. As I said, you should have the tab for this, so it is actually the first bar of the piece as well. So if I zoom in, you should see my hand a little bit closer, and we're going to go through the pattern again. So thumb, index, middle, index, ring, index, middle, index. Okay, I'm going to do that again. Okay, so take a time, pause the video and have a go at that with your A minor chord on, and just try and get it so that you can keep it smooth. And you'll see that my fingers aren't going, we're not doing rest strokes, so I'm not doing where your finger would come to rest on the next string. I'm just curling my fingers so they kind of float. And what you can can get with that is a lot more speed. And that's the kind of speed that this piece is. It's about that kind of speed. So it might take a little bit of work just getting used to that pattern. And what you want to do is some short bursts of practice. Just do it for a minute or so and then stop, go and do something else, practice something else, come back to it just on your A minor chord. If you get really fed up of your A minor chord, you can actually use a D minor chord. The D minor chord looks like this. First finger on the first string at the first fret, third finger second string, third fret obviously, and your middle finger goes on the G string on the third string at the second fret. So that's your D minor chord, and you move, for this chord you move your thumb down to the fourth string, so we're playing fourth string. So that's the pattern. I'll do it again a little bit slower. Whilst we're talking about chords, I might as well go on to the next chord, which is kind of half of an E chord. So if you know your chords, you've got that as your E chord, but actually we only need the bottom four strings, so we only put two fingers on. So first finger on the first fret of the third string, G sharp, and second finger on the second fret of the D string for your E note, and again same pattern. They're the main chords that are in this. There is a chord that looks like that, which is kind of an A minor with a C in the bass. It's sort of, and then we've got another E, but this time instead of being on the bass note being on the fourth string, it's on the fifth string this time. So you just move it over. So you've got your second finger on the second fret of the A string. That requires you putting your pinky down on the third fret halfway through the bar. So there's not a lot of movement in this piece. In terms of the left hand, it's really quite straightforward. So I'm going to play through from the beginning. As I said, you should have the tab in front of you, and we're going to do it as a fairly moderate speed. Then I'm going to go through it slowly, then I'll go through it at a normal speed. So just at a moderate speed, 1, 2, 3, 4. I made a couple of slips in there, so if you didn't spot where they were, that's fine. But if you did, well done you. I'm going to go through it now really quite slowly, just a line at a time. So the first bar is very straightforward. Your left hand at all, your right hand does all of the hard work on that one. Then we'll move in the second finger over onto the D string, and you've got, and the throughout that bar, just keep that second finger down on that E note. This hand we're just using thumb index, alternative between them. Now one thing you might notice if you look at the music notation, you'll see that everywhere where we're using the thumb, the note stem, the stem on the note goes down the way, and that's a fairly common thing when we're writing out classical guitar music. We use the direction of the stem to indicate the bass line, the separate line for playing along the bass line, and that is usually on the thumb. So third bar, we'll move over to a D minor chord, and it's you stay in position this time. Second finger stays on the second fret of the G string. Same kind of pattern. Onto the second line, we've got what E chord, 2 fingers down. And keep them down for the next bar. Up to F. Keep your second finger in place when you play the F. Then you can lift it for the D. Then we've got this quite a stretch, C on the bass. Then back to an E chord for the first bit of the bar. Then the pinky goes down on the third fret of the second string. Next bar, in fact the next line is exactly the same as the first line, so I'm just going to play through it. Right, next line we'll go back to an A minor chord. I think I made a mistake the first time through on this one. But this time we're actually playing the bass note on the D string on the 4th string. No movement, you just move your thumb to the 6th string and you do the same again. Thumb comes back to the 4th string, and this time we'll lift off the index finger, and this is a bit like an E suspended chord. Back onto the 6th string, and we'll lift that second finger off, and we've got our first finger ready on the 1st fret of the G string. Just going to scroll, and just the final 2 bars. And we're going to finish with 3 5s, so a 5 5 5 on the bottom 3 strings. If you want to roll that, you could do that, or you can just pinch it with all the fingers. If you really want to, you can deaden the 4th string by letting this finger touch it, and you can strum. Okay, I would prefer to roll it. I like that sound. So what I'm doing there is I'm just doing it, each finger very, very close together. So bum, 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 bum. And that's really called a roll. That's what we'll call that, a roll. Okay, so having gone through it fairly slowly, let's go through it at full speed. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nice little slow down at the end and a nice dramatic chord at the end will do it really, really well. Now there are a lot of pieces that are very, very similar to this. This is a one that I've got as study. I think it actually all originates from a chap called Corelli, who wrote a lot of exercises, and this was one of them. And you can do it at a lot faster speed if you wanted to. You could move it way up to... I gave it a little bit of drama in there, so I slowed down a little bit, sped up a little bit, did quiet and loud. Really, you can have a lot of fun with it and play it lots of different ways. You can repeat it as well. So rather than playing the final chord, you do just a little fermata, a little pause, and then you could repeat it again and go through it. So have fun.